All right, man, peace. So, basketball great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar appeared on the Skip and Shannon show to talk about a myriad of topics, one of them being Colin Kaepernick. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Last year, Colin Kaepernick started a movement across the NFL by kneeling for the national anthem. Cap remains unsigned, but the players in the NFL and other sports have continued to demonstrate. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is still with us. Kareem, how much impact has Kaepernick had?
I think he's had a significant impact. He's made people think, and I think that's a tough role to play.
Yeah, well, you know what? Speaking of roles to play, it's nothing against Kareem. All-time great player, arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. But Kareem has been playing a role for many years. He's been playing this role as this alleged pro-black person. And Kareem is not pro-black. What Kareem is somebody who suffers from the curse of being extremely intelligent, because that is a blessing and a curse. And Kareem is not somebody who is a people person. He's not someone who likes to be around people for him to even be considered pro-black or try to align himself with Muhammad Ali and a lot of the other athletes that he has been aligned with by osmosis over the years. I'm a firm believer that Kareem is somebody who's been playing a series of roles over the years, which is why he's been so welcome in Hollywood. I mean, let's be for real. Kareem has appeared in numerous movies. Okay? So Kareem is a guy who, once again, like many of the other athletes who attended the quote-unquote Ali Summit, they allow the narrative that the media perpetuates about what occurred at that summit and the reason why it was held. They allow that narrative to perpetuate because it's good for their brand. It's good for Kareem's brand that he was a part of that ceremony where they went there at the behest and after getting paid by Bob Arum to try to convince Ali to no longer persist in his, in his removal of himself from being a part of the Vietnam War process. Bob Arum paid those men. He paid Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Jim Brown and a lot of the other affluent black athletes that appeared at the Ali Summit to try to convince Ali to stop and to cease and not wanting to be a part and a partaker in the draft process. All right. Ali had filed as a conscientious objector on the grounds that he was a minister in the Nation of Islam, which was all true. And of course, the U.S. government did not like that. And of course, professional boxing did not like that, so they stripped him of his titles. Bob Arum stood to lose a lot of money if Ali did not want to play along with the government. So he paid many of these athletes to appear at the Ali Summit, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar being one of them. Okay? But it's good for their brand that they try to persist in this notion that they, were there in some pro-black, from some pro-black perspective. That like they were there to support Ali. They were not. They were there to question him and to try to convince him to become a part of the draft process. But it is what it is. And I did a video about this, one of my early videos.
And he took it on, and I got to take my hat off to him in that sense for his courage and determination to not shy away from the issue.
Do you feel like it cost him his job?
It probably has, and I think that's very unfortunate. I don't think his job should depend on his politics and what he feels about the fact that our nation has not always lived up to its ideals.
Well, let me say this. I agree that somebody should not lose their job over their quote-unquote politics. But when you make your politics more important than your job, that being to assist the owners in making money so that you can get the money because, you're getting a portion of the revenue. When you start to hit into the bottom line, then you're somebody who needs to be removed. That doesn't mean that he should stop his protests. It just means that he cannot do it on company time. That's how corporations work. I mean, bottom line, and I've used this analogy before. No matter what business you own, if you have an employee there who's working at your business and they're doing things on company time that are impacting your bottom line, you're going to remove them. That's how it works. Okay? And look, I've already made it known. I have no affinity for the protest tactics that are being used. I believe that they're just manifestations of an attempt to cause chaos, to try to socially engineer the NFL and thereafter socially engineer society. I'm already on record as stating that I believe that Colin Kaepernick is a pawn of his female, Ness Nitty, that he was activated by both her and calibrated by Nate Boyer. I don't believe that he's in his right mind. I don't even know if he knows where he is half the time. You'd be surprised. All right, people who might think that's far-fetched, it's okay. You'd be surprised in regards to what goes on behind the scenes with many of these quote-unquote top athletes and public figures. Okay? You should check out the film Manchurian Candidate with Denzel Washington. I'll probably be doing a breakdown of that film very, very soon. Probably the best film that you can watch to gain an understanding of how certain figures in American mass media are puppeted in more ways than one. Okay?
You know, the equal treatment under the law is supposed to be an ideal of this country, and when that doesn't happen and people pay with their lives, this is a serious issue, and that's what he's talking about. And it's unfortunate that people are trying to take it and twist it into saying that he doesn't respect the country.
Well, look, Colin Kaepernick is on record as stating that he was going to protest the flag, and the athletes who decided to join in on the protest stated that they were going to protest the national anthem and the flag until they were the recipients of quote-unquote equality. We know that that's never going to happen. So how can the protest ever end? Now, at this point in time, the NFL Player Coalition, led by Malcolm Jenkins, have decided that they're going to make a deal with the NFL for $89 million. Of course, that caused a fracture in the quote-unquote Player Coalition because they were never together in the first place. You had a segment of players who actually believed in the cause that was allegedly started or spurred on by Kaepernick, and then you had other guys who were just there to be vessels to promote chaos. And you'll notice that it is the guys who are closer to Kaepernick, like the Eric Reeds, etc., who decided to split from Malcolm Jenkins. I'm not saying that there are any good dogs in this race at all. Okay? I believe that most of these guys are opportunists, but I believe that some of them are sincere. Okay? I believe that some of them really believe that the best way to solve a lot of the problems, as they understand the problems to exist, is by asking for money from very, very affluent billionaire Caucasian owners. It is what it is. My viewpoint is I'm not trying to give anybody credit for my accomplishments. I believe that when the so-called black man understands that, then other people will respect him. They'll never respect you as long as you keep asking them to help you solve your problems, whether you believe that they caused them or not. When other people cause problems in your life, it's up to you to solve them, not them. Even if people are purposefully trying to bring negative energy and problems to you, you're still the one that has to solve it, not them. Sometimes you can solve it by by hurting that person who's bringing those problems to you. But you cannot ever accept someone else to solve your problems for you. You have to solve them yourself.
He wants the country to live up to its ideals. That's what it's about. I wish he was a little bit more inclined to be articulate about it, and we could hear about it from him.
Look, let me say this. From my standpoint, I've stated numerous times that I wanted to hear what Kaepernick had to say in regards to the update of this issue. I don't need him to tell me what his feelings are. I want to hear what his update is because I'm a firm believer that he has no end game. I know he doesn't, as a matter of fact. So I just want him to talk so that he can prove that. These other people talking about, I want to hear what Kaepernick had to say. Why? You already know how he feels about the issue. It's just that you want to be entertained. That's all. You want to be entertained and you want to try to join in so that you can make yourself relevant.
And people like me wouldn't have to come and try to defend him.
That's the question I was going to ask you. Do you think it's time for him to speak now? Because I don't believe him speaking now is going to help his NFL career. I think that's gone. I think they've made their decision. We know where they stand. They're bringing guys out of retirement. They're bringing guys back that hadn't thrown a pass in 3 to 5 years. So I don't think him speaking is going to help that. But do you want to hear him speak about what led him to do what he did? Because you mentioned it was the Emmett Till murder that led you down the path that you went on.
Right. I think it's about time. He's paid a very serious price.
Right.
He might as well take advantage of it. He's paid.
He's already taken advantage of it. He wrote a book, Kareem. And you will see Kaepernick again in the public, but it's going to be to promote his book. Okay? So I don't understand what the conundrum is in regards to what caused him to do what he did. These guys claim that they want athletes to be more socially conscious, but when they make gestures or protests in the name of social consciousness, they try to act like they don't know why they did what they did. He's already stated why he did what he did. He stated he did it because, according to him, that the police were unfairly killing unarmed so-called black men. And he was going to protest until it stopped. Now, we all know that it's never going to stop, so the protest can never stop. All right? That's my point against the protest. What you're doing is aimless. Bottom line. And I'm a firm believer that the reason why he got activated was nitty. So the fact that Shannon would ask that question shows you that maybe Shannon is getting a little suspicious in regards to what the origin of his idea to protest came from, or where it came from.
He's paying a price. Right. He hasn't proved it, but it seems to me like his saying that there's collusion, right, to keep him from working. Looks like a slam shut case for me.
Well, Kareem, I need to know where you got your law degree from.
So I wish he would come and speak about it, because people want to hear about it, right? And we're ready to listen, right? You know,
What?
Listen to what? Listen to what, bro? You sound bored. I think you just want to hear him talk, so you have something to focus on.
What did it mean to you? Which year was it? 67, the Ali Summit that you participated in Cleveland, Ohio. And at that point, you were still at UCLA.
yeah.
It's a pretty bold step for you to join Bill Russell and Jim Brown and others up on the dais to support Muhammad Ali. What did it mean to young Kareem?
Well, I don't know how bold it was, seeing as Bob Arum was paying him to be there. And just to show you how diabolical many of these on-air personalities are, as I've stated, I did a video about Bob Arum confessing that this whole thing was a setup to try to get Ali to forsake his crusade against going to fight in Vietnam or being a part of the Vietnam War induction process. I did a video about it. Bob Arum was on the Skip and Shannon show and stated point blank that all these men were paid to be there to try to convince Ali to go along with the program. And of course, Ali, being sincere as he was, basically let them know the reason why he was doing it and that he was not going to forsake what he was doing, period. And that's why I always give Ali a certain amount of credit and respect, not only for what he stood for, but his ideologies. Okay, he was consistent during that time period. He wasn't just some guy looking to protest. He went and he joined a separatist organization. He did not like how he was treated, so he decided that he did not want to be around people who did not want to be around him, which is reasonable, as opposed to a lot of the begging tactics for validation from the Caucasian that you saw all the way from back then up to today amongst so-called pro-blacks. But this whole thing was a sham and a charade, and Skip Bayless, showing you how disingenuous he is still trying to push the narrative, even though Bob Arum was on his show and told him that all this was basically a setup. And he's still trying to push it, him and Shannon. So they got to go along with Kareem and help Kareem perpetuate his cult of personality, pro-black bullshit.
For me, it was me trying to do my part, because at that point I had followed the civil rights movement, and I was committed to it. I, as a young black American, I wanted to see freedom, justice, and equality for all Americans, including people that look like me.
Right.
And
Look, Kareem, stop, brother. You joined a militant strain of the Nation of Islam in the early 1970s that actually got involved with terroristic actions. All right. For those of you who don't know, Kareem was involved with a member of the Nation of Islam who split off from the Nation of Islam and almost got caught up in some terroristic affiliations. So no, Kareem was not trying to get involved with equality. He was trying to get involved with separation. Okay? He was somebody who got pawned by Bob Arum in the late 60s and then he decided that he was going to continue on his journey into Islam into the 70s. He became associated with a very, very militant, quote unquote, strain of Islam. And then after those events that occurred in the early 70s, I believe in Milwaukee, there was an Islamic group that he was associated with that were themselves associated with a terroristic action, and he came under a lot of scrutiny, and he ended up going into a more balanced form of quote unquote Islam, and he ended up actually having a child with a Caucasian woman in the late 70s, early 80s. All right, but look, even though I mentioned these things about Kareem, the brother is extremely intelligent. He's written many very, very, very good books on recent quote-unquote black history. He wrote a great book on the 761st Tank Battalion. I just don't like when they try to create and perpetuate these fake narratives about these guys. I don't need to hear that. All right, Kareem should be congratulated for some of the things that he's done in regards to the books that he's written on certain aspects of quote-unquote black history. But the cult of personality shit, a lot of the fake narrative shit has to go.
I was proud to say that, I helped him because of the stances that he took and the way he stood up for all black Americans. Right. I was proud of him, and I wanted to help him.
No, you didn't. Stop lying. Stop lying. You were at the meeting at the behest of Bob Arum. Bob Arum paid you guys to try to convince Ali to not go along with his, with his resistance to the draft process. So you're lying.
He was very much, he felt like my brother.
Right. So what do you think about, is it time to have another summit 50 years later?
To do what? Talk about what, Shannon? What, y'all gonna have a pose off? You gonna take off your shirt and see who got the best muscles? Give me a fucking break, man.
Well, it's really...
Look at how much Kareem is pausing. He's pausing so much because he knows that what Shannon asked was some bullshit. Have another summit about what? The last summit was to try to convince Ali to not go against the draft. What are you going to have this summit about? All right. This is why I say this is why I come against the so-called pro-black so much. They love talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, always on camera about a lot of nothing. All right. Shannon is so much about the TV now and his own cult of personality on the internet that he's living out a role now as well. Talking all this bullshit about Nicole Murphy, knowing damn well that he is espoused to a Caucasian woman. These guys, they love to lie, man.
Interesting that the issues are still the same.
Yes.
Same exact issues.
Right.
Well, if the issues are still the same, what does that tell you, Kareem? That means that the tactics that you used back in the 60s didn't work. That's what that should tell you. So why? And that shows you, for Shannon to say, should we have another summit? Why would you have another summit when you had one 50 plus years ago and the shit didn't work? So you're going to do it again so that it don't work again.
Right. So it's not like there's been a gap in there. This is really a continuation of a struggle that most people of color have to go through as citizens of this country. So maybe we have to have a reorganization, but...
Well, that makes a little bit more sense in regards to what he's saying. If the understanding that I got from his statement is what he meant to imply when he says a reorganization, right? Meaning maybe we have to recalibrate, we have to re-coordinate our tactics, all right? Maybe your tactics have to change. When you're not getting the results that you want, that means you're using the wrong tactics.
It's still the same issue, and I think what I've seen, more Americans understand it now. When we had this ugly incident in Charlottesville,
right,
the reaction to President Trump's very unfortunate statements afterwards, those reactions came from all over the country. Right.
That's a bunch of bullshit. No. Look, and I said this already in regards to Charlottesville. A lot of so-called black people, they got all caught up in that Charlottesville bullshit. All that was a bunch of down-and-out white boys who marched into Charlottesville and got confronted by a bunch of liberal degenerates. All right? And any so-called black man who was there deserved exactly what he got if something bad happened to him. You're not supposed to get involved in that bullshit. Because those liberal groups who were trying to come against the white nationalist groups, all they were there to do was to cause trouble and cause drama. And of course, there were going to be altercations. And I agree with Trump when he said that there were bad people on both sides, because there were. All right, everybody involved was a piece of shit, basically. All right, on both sides. There's no so-called black man who's supposed to get involved in trying to convince white nationalists that they shouldn't be doing what they're doing. Let them do what they do. To hell with them. There are too many problems on the home front for you to be worried about what white trash are doing and how they're thinking. So, yes, I agree when Trump said that there were bad people on both sides, because there were. There were idiots and degenerates on both sides. It is what it is. People don't like it. Oh, well.
Right. From New England to Southern California, from Washington State to Florida, people said, no, that's not America. America tolerates people of all types, and everybody's supposed to be treated the same way. And what was said about our country in those demonstrations by Nazis and people like that, that was not the America that most Americans relate to.
Yeah, and you know what? It's the FBI's job to crack down on people who claim Nazi imagery, because that's an act of sedition. The same way that it's the FBI's job to crack down on people who use the Confederate flag. That's an act of sedition. Okay? That's their job. It's not the job of the so-called black man to be trying to get involved with these people unless they're trying to do something to directly harm you. They're white trash and they're marching. Let them do their thing. We do our thing. That's how it's supposed to go. You allow yourself to get sucked into that. And I mentioned this before. There was a cat who got hit by a car at that event in Charlottesville. Got his damn Air Jordans knocked off of his feet. Broke his leg. Why? Because he was following behind his fucking woman. And who was his woman following behind? A Caucasian woman. Okay? That's the liberal hierarchy. The Caucasian woman, the black woman, and then at the very bottom, the dumbass black man. All right? Stop following these people, brothers. Please.
And that gave me a lot of encouragement.
Why haven't we come further? You said we're dealing with very, very similar issues that led to the summit in 1967. Here we are in 2017.
Same issues.
Why haven't we progressed more?
Because your tactics are wrong. Your tactic is that you want to be validated by them, Shannon Sharp, especially you. All right? And you're an intelligent brother, but you're full of shit. That's why you haven't progressed. When you don't progress, even though you're exerting a lot of effort, is because you're utilizing the wrong tactics. The only way to get people to respect you is when you respect yourself first. Period. Like a couple of these guys got mad, I think it was on a Jesse Jackson video, when I was trying to explain to them the origin of a lot of the issues between the police and the so-called black community of today, and how many of the members of the police force are raised, not only are they raised in racist environments, but they understand that due to the ignorance that is very pervasive in the so-called black community in regards to their culture and their knowledge, it leads many of our people to conduct themselves in reprehensible ways. And you combine that with the fact that many of these police officers know that the value of a so-called black man's life is viewed as being much lower than other people's life. It gives them, in their view, carte blanche to do what they do. A couple cats got mad. But see, until the so-called black man learns to face the demons in the mirror, you can't really address any of these other demons like quote-unquote racism. Because once you address the demons that are in the mirror, you're going to find that racism is not as overpowering to you as it once was, because you don't care about what other people think about you. And people respect you when they see that you don't care about what they think about you. Then it makes them want to be respectful and quote-unquote nicer to you. That's how it works. As long as you keep begging for the validation of others, they're never going to respect you.
Because it's easy to backslide. When we're not vigilant about it, people start making those little, well, let's slice off a little bit of your rights.
Did we become complacent when we elected a black president? Did we become complacent as Americans, and especially as black Americans?
No, you became delusional. That's what happened. You became more delusional when a so-called black man became quote-unquote president. You actually believed that he was in office, and that was a sign of a change in racial dynamics. And I always bring this up. The main entity who wanted to act like things had changed was the so-called black woman, who did not even want Obama in the White House in the first place. They were voting for Hillary. Okay? And then when Hillary lost in the primaries, then they jumped on Obama and they jumped to their fake pro-black altar. And when Obama got in, what did the black woman say? Oh, no more excuses for you black men. I remember that like it was yesterday, hearing that from numerous black females, just overhearing it in the street or in other areas where the so-called black woman decided that she was going to run her mouth as usual. That the black man had no more excuses because there was a black man in office. And you know who else would normally say that? The Caucasian man. You'll find that oftentimes the same message comes from the mouth of the Caucasian man as does the so-called black woman. And if you pay attention, you'll find that they oftentimes express themselves towards the black man in the same way. So, no, what happened was that when Obama was put into the so-called White House, the black man became more delusional. The so-called black people became more delusional.
America got to a point where they thought, well, racism is over because we've now elected a black president. Okay. And that's not the case. It was an indication of progress. Right. Absolutely. Yes.
No. All it was an indication that they can put a pawn of any so-called race into that position. All right. Once again, the president's job is to make sure that he runs his sector of the worldwide corporation in the best way possible. Okay. He also is moderately in control of the military arm of the worldwide corporation. All right. Because Washington, D.C. is the military city-state of the worldwide corporation. Inner London is the capital, the financial capital of the worldwide corporation. Vatican City is the spiritual capital of the worldwide corporation, and Washington, D.C. is the military capital.
Yes. But we haven't crossed the finish line yet.
In 1960...
Well, there will be no finish line, Kareem. So, sorry.
1967, did you fear at all you were risking your professional career to go attend that summit?
No, and I wasn't concerned. I wasn't concerned about that. I didn't care. I had those issues were more important than anything you could have brought up to me about my future. That was something that had to be done then and now.
Did you?
Yeah, well, yeah, especially after Bob Arum flew you out there. Look, I'm not saying that the brother didn't care about issues. I'm sure he did as well as those other guys. I just don't like the false narrative. Okay, they were paid to go out there and convince Ali to to give up his crusade. That's what they were there for. And he was able to convince them that he was doing it for a legitimate reason. Once again, please check out the video that I did with Bob Arum, where he stated that point blank that he paid those guys to come out there. And that was not the only meeting that he set up, Bob Arum. Bob Arum was desperate to get Ali back in line. He figured that Ali might have to do maybe a year and a half with the military, that he could pull some strings and maybe get Ali to box some exhibitions in the military. And then he can come back and get right back down to business, making Bob Arum money. Okay? But Kareem was a young man. I'm sure that he was one of the more sincere people there in regards to thinking that he knew why he was there and what he was there to do and just being a part of something quote-unquote black. But they leave many of the most important parts out in regards to what that meeting was about. And you'll notice that it's normally the Caucasian liberal sports media who loves to promote that quote-unquote Ali summit more than any other group. So that should tell you right there that summit was not really about what they try to act like it was about. And again, Skip Bayless should be ashamed of himself because he already knows what it was about because he had Bob Arum on the show.
Did you feel any backlash from it or any...
From Coach Wooden or your teammates?
No, not really. People want to know, hey, what was it like being in the same room against that? That was mainly it, and I got to meet and hang out with Ali. That's really how we started our friendship, and that lasted until the day he died.
I do think your league, the NBA, has been more enlightened over time than the NFL has been. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I came in as a rookie, Milwaukee Bucks. They had the very first black general manager, Wayne Embry. Wow. When I came in, the NBA has been at the forefront, getting women involved.
Well, look, and you notice once again with the liberal views, first thing he did was run to the women. He didn't love Milwaukee that much because he wanted out of there by the early 70s. So he could talk all the Wayne Embry shit that he want to talk. By the early to mid 70s, he wanted out of Milwaukee. And that's why he was happy when he was traded to the LA Lakers. And eventually, and let me also say this, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was involved with many of the monarch sex slaves in LA. And I'm not the one saying that. All right? I'm not the one saying that. Bryce Taylor, in her book, Thanks for the Memories, mentions Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as being a frequent user of a lot of the monarch sex slave women and prostitutes out there in Hollywood. Okay? So it is what it is. And I'm not trying to castigate the brother. You know, it's whatever. There's most of these broads out here ain't nothing but some $2 whores anyway. Point being is this: he's trying to frame the NBA and Milwaukee as being a racially conscious corporation and environment, and they're not, and he knows it because he wanted out of that environment by the mid 70s.
Getting more black coaches and general managers involved. NBA's done a great job, and I think they've been exemplary in terms of professional sports organization.
Well, that's more liberal narrative promotion. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wants to be a coach. He's never going to get that opportunity because they don't view his personality as being conducive to coaching. Okay, but as I stated in the video in regards to Jason Whitlock and the firing of the Memphis coach David Fizdale, as Whitlock touched on so well, the NBA is no more racially conscious or racially fair in their hiring and firing practices than the NFL.
Well, if you could give a speech and all America could hear it, how would it go?
This is the greatest country in the world, but we have to be vigilant about teaching the values of this country to successive generations. And we're at a critical point now. So we need to really figure out what we want our nation to be, and we have to go out here and do the work. We got to pay the price, make the effort, so that these values are transmitted from generation to generation. Offering.
Look, I'm going to wrap this video up here. I just wanted to make this video just to try to display to many of you brothers out there how delusional many of these people are. America's history has shown you that whatever message that many of these pro-black television entities keep talking about, it was never intended for the so-called black man to reap the benefits of many of these tenets of America that they claim America has always been about, but they keep persisting in it. Why is that? Because they worship America. They have hope in this place, as opposed to understanding that this is not our rest. This is just the place of our captivity. But anyway, nothing against the brother Kareem. As I've stated, very intelligent brother. Nothing against him. But, he is being used as a distraction. And he embraces it because he knows that he stays relevant by people believing that he is this super revolutionary figure, and he never has been. The brother is a recluse, as most very intelligent people often are. But he knows that, his associations with Ali and a lot of the stigma that he is quote unquote pro-black, etc., keep him relevant, keep him, getting invited on these different TV shows. All right. And I think that Kareem has struggled with certain portions of his personality throughout his life. But anyway, I'm sure that this Kaepernick narrative will provide a lot of fodder in the future. Peace.